Welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast, where we are finding hope and healing one episode at a time. No appointment needed, no rubber gloves, and no copay. Just a healthy dose of life lessons to help equip you for this wild journey we call life. Hey everyone, it is April. That means summer's around the corner and we got to get in shape. We got to be working out. We got to take care of ourselves. You're doing the good work of mental health and enjoying stuff by listening to this excellent podcast. And, we have so many great guests and they're brought to you by Simply Snacking. So you might as well benefit that company for believing in us here and bringing this content for you. So buy some of their beef snacks and beef jerky and chicken and farm raised healthy good stuff. We're going to be talking about a lot of this on the podcast. You might as well know what we're talking about. So go and enjoy that. Have it. If you have Simply Snacking, keep eating it and enjoying it, and keep your lifestyle healthy. And summer's coming. We got to get ready. Don't say I didn't warn you. All right. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening and enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome back to the Life's Best Medicine podcast. I have a good one. Someone we've crossed paths. I got to do his YouTube channel and all that kind of fun stuff. So I wanted to return the favor, and I can hold up the book here. Hopefully, if people are watching it. And I thought he wrote it about me, My Unremarkable Brain, by David Moore Robinson. David, welcome, man. So good on short notice to come join me.
Oh, thank you for having me, Doc. Thank you so much. And let me say thank you for the work you do. I do love this podcast. I'm a listener of this and the Low Carb MD podcast. And it's been a huge part of my journey, through learning and growing. And you folks at home don't know this, but it's Friday. It's a beautiful sunny day there in San Diego. Most of the doctors there are probably out on the golf course right now. But here's Dr. Brian, been stuck in his basement all day doing podcasts like some kind of nut. So, no, but seriously, thank you. For all that you do,
Yeah, I'll catch up on my sunshine this weekend, hopefully, but no, it's so awesome. Like spending time with people like you, hearing your story and you putting it down on paper and putting so much effort. You even gave me a shout out in there. I appreciate that. It's good for my ego. But yeah. Tell people your story and like what brought you to where you're at now, and just a nutshell of life and what your motivation is. I'm gonna ask you a ton of stuff right at the beginning.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, so the book, the subtitle of the book is A Fat-Fueled Adventure into the World of Ketogenic Epilepsy and the Ketogenic Diet. I have to look at it myself because it's such a long title. But it's really, it has been kind of an adventure for me when I think back on the way this whole thing has gone. I'm kind of a person who found the low carb diet for weight loss, as sort of this crazy fad diet. And I said, why not give it a try? And then as I got deeper and deeper kind of into the world of low carb, I heard about, how it can be used for epilepsy. And so, and as a person who's had epilepsy for almost 20 years now, that was a real shocker to me. So the more I read, the more I started just learning and diving into it and trying to educate myself and, kind of getting deeper and deeper into this world. So the book just kind of tells that story. I'll go back to the start if you want, sort of my epilepsy journey, first of all. So I had my first seizure when I was 28, which is kind of, a lot of people are surprised by that because they think of epilepsy, they think of kids, and as a matter of fact, my brother has epilepsy and he had it growing up. And it, presented itself when he was maybe 4 years old, I think, something like that. And that's much more typical. And growing up, he had what they call absence seizures, or they used to call them petit mal seizures. So he would sort of his brain would seize, right? His neurons
staring off into space, and people are looking like, "Hey, are you there? What's going on?" Like without seizing, actually, where you see that.
Right, exactly. And so, he would stop in mid-sentence. He'd be like, can we go to the park? And sort of, didn't even realize the time had passed, kind of thing. And so, so I grew up familiar with epilepsy. And when I'll also say that when he was in his late teens, it sort of progressed to grand mal seizures. But so, I was familiar with the idea of epilepsy, with what it was. and I remember, my mom it was an endless string of appointments for him. Well, let's try this medication. No, that's not working. Let's try this medication. No, that one's not working. That one's kind of working. That one's working okay. So let's stick with that for a couple of years. Maybe after a few years we can wean them off, see if he's outgrown it. Unfortunately, it seems like really the world of there's so much that we don't know about the brain. It seems like, so there's a lot of trial and error with this stuff. There's something like 26 different anti-seizure medications of all different types, different ways, methods that they work, but none has really been the big breakthrough that pharmaceutical companies have been looking for all these years, right? So he had the epilepsy growing up, and then I was 28 years old, and I was living in New York City. At the time I had two roommates. We were hanging out one night talking, trying to figure out what we're going to eat for dinner, and I started feeling lightheaded, and started actually it was my hearing that I noticed. If you ever as a kid, you take like a cardboard tube and you stick it up to your ear like a paper towel tube, and it kind of sounds echoey like that.
Like a seashell, like that, the seashell sound, right? Yeah,
exactly. So that's kind of what I was hearing, and I was like, well, this is weird, this isn't right. And I kind of felt, a little bit lightheaded, and stood up, and that's all I remember, right? That's, next thing I knew, I was in the back of an ambulance. So my roommates were quite surprised, obviously. I started convulsing and fell backwards. I had stood up from the couch, fell back onto the couch, and was convulsing and stopped breathing. Turned blue in the face. The whole, like, very scary thing actually to witness a seizure. I didn't witness it because I was unconscious the whole time. I was kind of like not there for it, But
the people watching are like, oh my gosh, what do we do? And it's a freak out. Yeah, it's really scary. I've seen them, and it's scary still, even though I know what it is. It's a scary thing to see.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, they tell the story that our neighbor, who was we had kind of a noisy neighbor, and he was a bit of a deadbeat, but he came running he heard all the noise, and he came running in, and they said, go catch an ambulance, like he was going to flag one down on.
Yeah. Run out in the street and get someone. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Hospital stay of a couple of days, MRI, EEG scans, the whole deal. And they didn't find anything. And they said, well, looks like it's epilepsy. So here's a medication, sent me home. And they actually sent me home with triple the amount that I was supposed to be on, because someone made a clerical error. So a week later, I was back in the hospital with toxicity from that. That's a whole other story. Like, wait, what's going on? I'm seeing weird colors right now.
And a lot of the meds we're using are the psychiatric medications and stuff that can really snow you. And some of the side effects of the med, some people get bleeding from their gums with Dilantin, those kind of medicines, and also, severe fatigue, weight gain, the mood stuff. There's a lot of downside to the medications too.
Yeah, actually it was Dilantin that I was on, and so the next couple of years I saw no more seizures, but my weight started creeping up. I'd have some of these side effects, like you say, fatigue, getting tired during the middle of the day, those sorts of things. So I wouldn't make it through a day without a nap, like as soon as I got home from work. And so after a couple of years, they said, well, you've only had one seizure, let's try weaning you off, see what happens. Well, they weaned me off, had another seizure, and at that point I had a different neurologist, and they said, well, there's newer medications, let's try you on one of these. And so luckily enough, the next medication I went on, oxcarbazepine, did work, and at a pretty manageable dose, and manageable side effects. Like I said, the weight started creeping up a little bit, and maybe it made me feel a little a little bit slow sometimes and things like that, but manageable as far as that goes. And so basically that was the next 10 years. I'd wake up in the morning, take my pill, head to work, do my thing, come home, take my pill at night before bed. Pretty much was able to get away with not thinking about it. And so, I don't like to bad mouth medication, medical science or pharmaceuticals and everything, but because, there's a place, I think, that definitely help. But, fast forward to 10, 12 years later, and while I'm driving, I did a long distance car trip. I went up to New York to go camping with my brother for the weekend, and I live down here in DC. It's about 8-hour drive. So I was on my way home, and Sunday afternoon, and sure enough, I start hearing something again. In fact, what they call auditory hallucinations. Basically, I'm driving along, I'm listening.
Like a prodrome where people get it before migraines, where they something's coming, or they see flashing lights, or their smell is off, and they go, something's coming, and they know.
Yeah, exactly. And so thankfully I had that, because I was driving down the highway. Everyone on the highway is going 70 miles an hour through the mountains. So I hear like music actually, and I'm like, where is that music coming from? That's not on the stereo. I just turned that off. So sort of started to pull over, and by some miracle, I have to say, because the car ended up on the opposite side, so across 2 lanes, down a meridian, across 2 more lanes, and up on the bank on the opposite side, just a short distance from.
Wow.
Yeah, just a
That's
short
a little
distance from
nerve-wracking.
Yeah. I told my coworker about this, and she said, God must be saving you for something, because
yeah, no doubt. I'm going across 2 lanes of traffic both ways on both sides, and ended up on the bank and not going off a cliff. Yeah.
It was so a bit of a rude awakening, I guess you could say. You know what I mean?
So what happened? How did you wake up after that event? Was it like someone came and got you and woke you up, or what happened?
Honestly, I don't know. I was by myself. The dog was in the car. My theory is that he jumped up on my lap and started steering, but the dog was in the car. And so my wife, who was back here at home and, waiting for me to come home, gets a phone call, and says, is this the wife of David Robinson? She said, yeah. This is the police department.
She said, now what did he do?
Such and such a town, right? Figures, up to his old tricks again. And she said, they said your husband's been in a car accident. She's like, is he okay? They said, we can't tell you.
Oh, great.
So, yeah. And so, of course, I'm in the middle of rural Pennsylvania with the car. So she calls up 2 of our best friends here in town. They're out. It's Sunday evening. They're out, having dinner at a restaurant, having a cocktail, whatever. And she's like, I need to go to Pennsylvania to get Dave. And so she had no idea what condition I'm in, what she's going to find when we get there, So the 4 of them, the 2 couples, my friends Bill and Jane and Rich and Patricia, I mentioned them in the book, say, all right, well, they just drop everything, grab her, they jump in the minivan and go. And, it's good to have friends like that,
No kidding.
So they showed up, picked me up from the hospital. I was still sedated. So pretty much my last memory was of driving and trying to pull over a little bit. And, that was about it. I have sort of, fuzzy memories of being in the hospital and kind of wake up and fall back asleep and the drive back. And, but it's a good story, they still tell it and give me a hard time about it.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Did you total your car? Was it okay? The car was drivable?
The car was fine. The car was fine. Yeah.
Wow,
amazingly. Amazing. My friend Rich drove it home, and the rest of us were in the van on the way home, So that was when I really got serious about, trying to take a little better control of it. I went to my neurologist, and by the way, like I said, I've been going in.
Did you lose your license and all that stuff? Have to go through all that rigmarole?
Yeah,
that's a tough one too. Yeah.
a suspended license, and so that it depends on the state. Different states have different statute limitations and all that. But yeah, I had to figure out a whole new way to get to work. Rely on one of my coworkers to pick me up and commute with him, because that's a 20-mile commute each way. And so it did kind of throw me for a loop, I guess, right? Now I went to my neurologist, who I see pretty much every year. He'd call it the drive-through appointment. Like I go through, he'd say, okay, you're here for your drive-through, just wave it. I refill your prescription.
I did my thing. Here's your meds.
Here's your meds.
See you next time.
Get a blood work. Looks good.
Get your copay on their way out.
Exactly. So I went to see him. So, what's going on here? Why do you think this has happened? He said, I'm not too worried about it. After all that.
Yeah, of course not. You're not too worried. It's like getting surgery. It's like, I'm not worried about it. Well, I'm the one getting surgery. Are you worried about me getting a surgery?
Right. Yeah. Well, I am a little worried about it, I have to say, So in the meantime, like I said, I had looked into the low carb diet. I sort of found my way into this world by way of Vinnie Tortorich, the NSNG thing,
Oh yeah.
Low carb sounded kind of wild and out there, eliminate a third of what you eat, who's going to do that? But cut out sugars, cut out grains. All right, let me give that a try, And on one episode, he had Jim Abrams, the founder of the Charlie Foundation.
Oh yeah.
And Jim told his story. It's an amazing episode. It was actually him and Susan Massino, if you know her. She's done research on the brain and epilepsy and the ketogenic diet. So the two of them really told his story, and it was just really eye-opening. And that was my first inkling that this connection even between what I eat and what my brain is doing. You know what I mean? And so like I said, I had heard it and I thought, well, that's interesting, but things are working okay, but then when I had that seizure, in the car, I said, okay, well, maybe I should take a look at this, and so I was very lucky. The other way I'm very lucky is that here in DC, we're just up the road from Johns Hopkins, which is the sort of the epicenter of epilepsy and the ketogenic diet. People like Dr. Eric Kossoff, who's done been sort of the leading edge of all the research of the last 20 years or so. And they actually have an adult diet epilepsy center. So I talked to my own neurologist, said, what about this diet and stuff? And they're like, well, we don't really do that here, And so I said, well, let me push this a little bit, So I started, see who I know, see how and managed to get into that clinic. And that's kind of, took it from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's amazing because a lot of times it's just they have it for kids and adults are left out in the, they don't have anywhere to go necessarily when you have a seizure disorder.
That's right. And in fact, the doctor that I see, Dr. Mackenzie Cervenka, and she publishes, in this world. And she said, the reason we started this is that we had all these kids that were successfully using the diet, and then they turn 18, where do they go? Right. Mm-hmm. And so we need a place that they can continue. But, over the years it's grown. And as the diet, it's become more and more popular, they get more and more people like me who come from elsewhere and say, I really want to try this. I really want to give it a go. So that's one of the cool things about, this growth of the low carb diet, ketogenic diet, how it's become more popular, it's really reaching a lot more people.
Yeah, it's not so much of a challenge to find stuff everywhere you go now. Everything says keto, 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 and it may not even be keto, and it says keto, right? So trying to eat real food and it is tragic. As a matter of fact, the Reynolds family, I don't know if you saw that episode. We had them on, and their son was having seizures like crazy, and then finally he asked the doctor, "How come we were trying drug after drug, and my kid was a disaster. You never talked to us about diet at all." And he said, well, it's too hard to stick to, so I don't usually tell people about it, right? It's like, well, heck, you should at least give me the option to say, hey, it's too much, we're not going to do it, we'll just take the meds. But at least people should be able to give it a trial. Yeah.
I mean, and if you look at again, I mentioned Jim Abrams, he's become sort of this crusader for this, and their foundation funds a lot of the research that's going on in this, and they really have made it their mission to spread the diet. If you look at their website, they've got numbers as to how many estimates of how many people with epilepsy worldwide would benefit from this, but have never heard of it, you know. And it's just a say, you know, in the millions, of course. So, you know, that's kind of why I wanted to write the book. You know, I kind of call it the book that I never wanted to write, because the other side of it, you know, with epilepsy is kind of this thing that people get weird about. I don't know how to put it exactly. You know what I mean? Some people call it an invisible disability, right? You know, we have this thing that you can't see, but it's certainly there, and it can certainly affect your life. As you mentioned, driving, you know, different people with different needs, different schedule needs and things like that.
Or even when you're out with people, you have to tell them, hey, look, if I do have a seizure, don't worry about it. You know, have this, you know, hopefully, you know, so at least they're educated. As a matter of fact, I was out jogging one morning, and my daughter called me in a panic. It happened to be like 4:30 in the morning. She's like, Dad, I'm so sorry to wake you up. I'm like, I'm out on a jog. What's up? She goes, oh my gosh, she told me about her roommate. And I go, she's having a seizure. That's exactly what's happening. And so she was able, at least she had some knowledge and was able to, but it's scary. And she had told her roommate had said, hey, look, I have seizures if this, you know, and she happened to be up late the night before studying and had and stress and all these other factors that can cause seizures. But at least she had some idea of what's happening, you know, because it's scary if someone just starts seizing. You don't know if they're having a stroke, what's going on, you know, it's scary for people.
Right. No, that's exactly it. You know, and there's plenty of misinformation out there as well. You know, I mean, people, I was watching a comedian who had been a doctor, and oh, what's his name? He's the guy from The Hangover.
Oh yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah.
You know, and in his act, he talks about how you know, he was at a concert and he was giving a show and somebody started seizing, and the big hero of the story went over and took his belt off and stuck it in the guy's mouth so the guy wouldn't swallow his tongue.
Yeah, and just put a spoon in the mouth, all that kind of stuff too, right? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, exactly. So there's so many stories like that where people go, oh, they're gonna swallow their tongue. You got to get in there and help save them, right? Like, thanks, you broke 3 of my teeth. I appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so, you know, I would say I never went out of my way to hide it necessarily, but it's not like it's something that comes up in everyday conversation. And while it was well controlled by medication, I like I said, I take my pill, you know, go through my day. So I had, shortly after I had that seizure while I was driving, I had one at work. And again, nobody at work really knew that I had epilepsy, right? And shame on me for not letting them know. But again, everyone, you know, panicking, what's going on? I mean, there's sort of no more vulnerable moment than being in the meeting with the conference room with your boss and your coworkers, and you're, you know, unconscious, writhing on the floor, wetting yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly, right.
So, so it really, you know, the journey for me has been also one of acceptance in a way, and understanding that this is part of me. It doesn't need to define who I am, you know, doesn't need to you know, control my life, but it is something that I need to understand, that I need to honor, to deal with, you know what I mean? And that's really, and so you know, again, just the book started as my blog, actually, and I wanted to, because I knew I was going to get all kinds of, as soon as I went on this crazy diet, and I'm going to kill myself with saturated fat and everything else, right? That I'm going to get all kinds of questions from my friends, from my family. And I said, you know what, let me blog about what's going on and my journey and all that sort of thing. And so week after week I do that, and people would be like, you should write a book. And so the year before last, right when the pandemic started, actually, I got an opportunity to enroll in a class, book writing class, sort of, it's through Georgetown, but anybody anywhere in the country can enroll. It's one of these open access things. And the professor, I'll give him a shout out, Eric Custer, sort of guides you through the process of how to write a book. and how to do interviews. And so, you were gracious enough to be interviewed, and I included that in your book. And I got the opportunity to, sort of the silver lining of the lockdown at the time was that all these people who were really leaders in the low carb field, who would normally be traveling all over the world to conferences and doing their research and presenting and all these things, everyone's at home. So they're like, yeah, sure, I'll give you half an hour, how about next week? Yeah. And so it was great. It was just an amazing opportunity to talk to all these folks that I've listened to on podcasts and that I've read their books and read their research and bring that together. So yeah, wonderful opportunity. Like I said, not something that something that I kind of hesitated, but I found that once I leaned into it, that it really gave me, I guess, a sense of purpose and a sense of mission with all this stuff, kind of brought everything together for me,
Yeah, I think it's important. And then, like you talk about finding humor in all this stuff and being able to live your life and not letting it control you. I think that's a critical thing, because a lot of us will get a bad diagnosis like Parkinson's disease or Lou Gehrig's disease or something like that. And all of a sudden you think your life's over. They go, this is chronic progressive. There's no hope for you. So being able to say, okay, let me see what I can do. And that's one thing I found is a unifying theme for people, is that they go, okay, I got this. What do I do to make it better? What can I do? Instead of just saying, I'm going to listen to what everyone tells me to do.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, again, some of the folks that I interviewed, Jennifer, I think you've had her on your podcast.
Seizure Salad.
Seizure Salad.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah.
And her journey too. She was like 317 pounds. She loses all this weight. She goes against medical advice. The doctors are upset with her because she's healthy now. And it's incredible when you hear her story. You go, you'd rather do brain surgery on me than let me change my diet and see if that helps. I mean, it's incredible. That one really hit me.
Yeah, no, it is. And it did me too, absolutely. And so honored to talk to her. And like you said, the theme of all the people that I talked to Michel Lundell, who created the Ketonics breath monitor, keto monitor. Same thing. He was a guy with epilepsy. He was on some medication that was making him just fly into rages at his family, at his wife and kids all the time, just completely messing with his mood. Did the research himself, found it, had to actually print out the research, bring it into his doctor, said, I want to do this. And the doctor's like, all right, let me read this stuff first. And then we'll see. And then green lighted him. And, he made it into not just his own treatment, his own lifestyle, but a career, right? He created this company with this ketone breath meter. Krishna Kalyanan is another guy, Catalina Crunch. I don't know if you've seen that keto cereal.
Oh yeah.
But he's the same thing, seizures and type 1 diabetes, as a matter of fact. So he got the double whammy and missed having cereal. So again, found a purpose, found a career in this whole thing. And that's the thing. I mean, it really is. It's kind of empowering to me, to say there is something I can do about it. There's something that, that I can participate, rather than sort of passively walk into the doctor and say, okay, is there anything can be done?
And most doctors don't know. Most doctors don't know about the ketogenic diet. They don't know. They're not looking into it. Even neurologists, I'm surprised how many I talk to, and they go, ketogenic diet, what is that? Like,
yeah,
you're a neurologist, man. This is like the gold standard. I'm doing it off label basically for obesity and diabetes, but it's like, man, this is something that, and what we've seen is mood getting better, energy improving, focus getting better. All these other side effects that we're seeing are so exciting. And so, in your case, losing weight, getting your life back, and not being on these meds that can affect your brain.
Yeah, exactly. And I will admit, I'm still on medication, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing is,
I'm not against it,
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to make that point to anyone listening. It's not like, hey, everyone throw your keto and drop your meds off. It doesn't work for everyone. But you're saying, hey, if I'm going to be on meds anyways, let me try to get my lifestyle right. And let me see if I can impact. And so instead of having a seizure every month, I have one every 6 months, or maybe once a year, or maybe 5 years. So it's just saying, hey, what can I do to minimize that? So I think that's a really important point to make. Say, hey, it's not like this is the magic cure. It's saying, hey, can I minimize it? By exercising, can I help my sugars? Yes, you can. Is it going to cure type 1 diabetes? No, it's not. Right. But you're not going to be shooting as much insulin. I can tell you that.
Right. Right. And that's my point of view too. I mean, let me throw everything at this thing that I can, right? Um, and you mentioned stress, you mentioned sleep, that's the other thing is that, um, so I, again, after I had the more recent seizure, I said and went into this new doctor, and the nice thing about a neurology appointment is that, and you've talked about this, the sort of the prescription pad medicine that happens at a general practitioner, because it has to, right? Because the doctors are under all this pressure to get you in, get you out. Um, the thing with neurology, the only way they can figure out what's wrong with you is to talk to you. And so, so the appointment, so it had this amazing experience of this appointment. It was an hour long, tell me about the seizure, what was going on in your life, what happened before, what, do you remember about? And so I started asking her, okay, well, I've heard that, alcohol can be a trigger. Is that true? Well, yeah, it can. And some people can't. What about, what about caffeine? Well, sometimes, what about stress? What about sleep? They really don't know. But the one thing my doctor said is like, look, all the things that you mentioned, they hurt your sleep and they hurt your stress level. And those are the two biggest things. You know what I mean? Make sure you get your sleep hygiene, kind of tuned in. Make sure you watch your stress, and that's a big part of the whole picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a big picture across the board, right? That's something that that's why I did this podcast. Like, okay, go and eat your ketogenic diet or low carb diet, and then be nasty, everyone, not sleep, be stressed out, don't sleep, all those things, and you might as well have a cookie and go enjoy life. That's why, that's really when you start looking at it. Like if you stress out over every pound, every ounce, I want to, when you're type A, well, I think it's a curse for a lot of people. Type A's get a lot of work done, but the cost to the body and the brain is overwhelming. If you think, oh, if I drink this water, there might be this impurity in it, and you worry all day about it, it's like,
right,
you're better having a beer and relaxing than doing that, really. I mean, ultimately, it's one of those things where I see the effects of stress on the physiology. And what's surprising is just looking up the data and you think, oh my gosh, I mean, it is devastating what it is just to the gut microbiome by itself. And that has impact on the brain and brain activity and stress levels. And if you're stressed and you eat because you're stressed, so you say, how do we break these cycles of, if you're stressed and you're not sleeping, guess what? It's going to be a tough one to break, because you got to sleep and you got to get your stress level under control. So we got to attack those things, and we get those under control, then other things get better. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely right. As a matter of fact, I put on a few pounds in the pandemic when we sort of got locked down here.
Everyone did, man.
So, what are you going to do? Right. So I'm working on it and not seeing much. We went on vacation, went away for 2 weeks, and come back. All of a sudden, I'm down like 8 pounds. Like, wait, what happened there? I wasn't, and this is, I wasn't weighing.
I don't know if you heard what I've been talking about lately, but I'm exactly seeing that. I've seen people get out of a stressful environment. They go, went on vacation for 10 days and they ate terrible food and they lost weight. So it's not just about the diet. Clearly, there's a stress component.
Definitely. And I think, a lot of us have been under a lot of stress, maybe even more than we acknowledge. I mean, I'm the kind of person who, it's fine. I can handle it. I'll deal with it. You know what I mean? Just make me keep on going. But I wouldn't consider myself like type A, like, I got to get at it. But I'm sort of the, got to get my work done. I've got to, make sure everything's taken care of. And
you strike me as like the rule follower, do the right thing. I don't want to rock the boat. Let me just do my thing and get along. And so sometimes if someone's rubbing you the wrong way, at some point you have to communicate and go, look, man, every time you're doing this, dragging your nails on the chalkboard starts to bug me now. Let's not do that. Right?
Yeah.
So, but it's hard when you're the peace lover. It's usually the caregiver, the person who wants to really have peace and say, okay, I'm not saying anything, but inside they're like, I've had it with this person. It's just funny. Well, I always kind of make the joke about the New Yorker person who just tells people off and they don't care and they just go away like nothing happened. They're not like, okay, let's go play basketball. We had our fight. Let's move on. It's just amazing to have that ability. But those of us who are conscientious and you want to do the right thing and you don't want to offend people, it's a hard thing, because you think about everything you say and it's a lot of energy on the brain.
Yeah, exactly. And the stress, I mean, it's not stress the way we think of stress. It's not air traffic controller stress, but it is stress inside, that you internalize, I think, right?
Or even the stress of just being busy all the time or saying, oh, I have to be here. I got to pay this bill. I got to be here at the bank and I got to take care of this. I want to have a meeting on Monday. And, just having that constant stuff. And I think sometimes just saying, I'm just going to waste time today. I'm going to say, and it's hard for me to do that still because I've been so busy my entire life, but and plus I want to help people. So it's like, okay, if I'm sitting by the beach, I'm not helping someone that day or that hour. And so, but at some point you have to recharge your battery in order to be able to provide some energy for other people to feed off of a little bit,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's that old put on your own oxygen mask first kind of thing, right?
Yeah. And I had to figure that out as a caregiver, as a doc for, 18 years, crushing my soul, working or probably 25 years when residency and med school and all that. You just say, okay, like you said, I'm just going to put my nose to the grindstone. I'm just going to work hard and work hard and work hard and prove myself. And at some point you go, I'm on the treadmill that's going too fast and I'm running I can't keep this pace up for another 25 years. I got to figure something else out that I enjoy. Right. And for me, I happen to enjoy doing podcasts with people like you that I learn from and get to, find out what's important in life. And I think that's why I did this podcast, to say what else matters, not just saying, okay, I don't eat fried foods. Okay, what else is there to life? There's got to be more to it than that, right?
Right. No, it's great. It's great. I was thinking about this the other day because I was reading a book by Richard Leiter. Do you know this guy? He writes books about purpose, about sort of finding your purpose in life and finding, direction, career, or those sorts of things. And there was a quote from there that really struck me. He says, the purpose of all of life, from the purpose of all of life is to grow and to give. So if you think of a tree, it's trying to grow and it's trying to produce fruit, that someone can eat, right? And the same is true for people, right? The people are most satisfied. He's a psychologist, so he's from the sort of positive psychology school, the Martin Seligman type people, right? And you look at the studies and people are most engaged, they're happiest, they're most positive, and feel the flow state and all those sort of things when they're learning, when they're growing, when they're doing something that's enhancing their own knowledge, their own life, and or when they're doing something that brings meaning to the world, to other people, right? And so, like you're saying, with the podcast, to me, just listening to and sort of, I guess, marinating myself in all the knowledge about low carb is a big part of that. Just I'm a reader, I'm an English teacher by trade, so all of my reading over the past couple of years has been, Gary Taubes and Nina Teicholz and all these sort of things, just getting way into it. But that's the growth, and then to write my blog, to talk to people. I mean, that's kind of the way to bring it out into the world, I think.
Yeah, and it's the outflow. It's the outflow from you because of your efforts, and be able to share that with other people. So many people that I've known over the years they get the knowledge and they're like, I'm not sharing it with you. I worked hard to get this knowledge. But all the people I found in the low carb, they're like, hey, do you want to use my slide set? Hey, do you need this? What do you need, Brian? I can help you. And people like Ben Bickman, like behind the scenes of knowing them as people, you go, wow, these are cool people. They're nice. And they want people to listen to them. And so you have a scientist like Ben Bickman who's working in his lab doing whatever with his beakers and stuff. But what he comes up with, I can apply to medicine. So for me to say, hey, Ben, look at this, listen to this. But it's because of him that I'm allowed to have those skill sets. And I think when people really, what you're talking about is passing it along to other people, like, what's all paying it forward. So for me, just the last couple of weeks, things I've learned, and then all of a sudden that next week, people are coming with those problems. Like, I just read about that yesterday. Holy cow. Listen to this study, right? Or whatever. Yeah. But we have to have the time. And I think in medicine, just to look at the bigger problem of medicine that I've seen, is that doctors are stressed out, they're not sleeping. They don't really care about the newest sciences coming out. They don't have time to think about it. They're working 16 hours and they're thinking, I just got to go home and save my marriage. And I need a drink to calm my nerves. I need some coffee to get going in the morning. And you see these guys under stress like that. And you think, man, it's hard to be a cog in the wheel, and I know, because I've done it for 18 years. And now I'm all of a sudden saying, hey, look, honey, my wife's leaving for work before me now. And she's like, I used to leave in the dark every day. So I'm like, okay, bye, honey. Have a good day at work. I'm going in like 15 or 20 minutes. I'll see you later tonight. But it's one of those things where you just have that downtime just to have a cup of coffee with my wife in the morning. That's a huge blessing, because I used to be gone before she was even thinking about waking up, So it's just, when you start looking at what really matters in life, you go, should I trade it? Like Tro was just saying today, he goes, man, you had courage just leaving your work after, just changing your career path after all those years. Like, you know what? I think at some point when you see your head getting beaten against the wall and bleeding, you have to make a choice, or you can't just stay in the same system. You got to make a choice, even if it's a risky choice. You got to take it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we always hear that story about, I saw an Adam Grant podcast the other day. There's that old story about the frog, you know, in the boiling water, right?
Yeah,
You put
exactly.
it bounces out, but it was, the talk was on that theme. And he says, at the end, he says, you know, actually that's a myth. The frog does know when it's uncomfortable and it'll jump out. They're not idiots, you know?
Yeah, they even figured out more than we do. Sometimes we don't
Right,
know when
right.
that water.
Unfortunately, we
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, we
Right?
don't get it as much as the frog gets it. I know, absolutely, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it's very interesting. You know, you gotta. Again, it's. I mean, self-care gets sort of a, you know, you start thinking about bubble baths and all this sort of silly stuff, but it really is. I mean, I like to think of it as maintenance. You know, you got to take your car in for basic maintenance. You got to take yourself in for basic maintenance and make sure you're taking care of.
Yeah, I think that's it. And starting to realize and not being selfish about it, where you're, injecting everything and doing all these things. I'm never going to get old. But part of it's saying, hey, look, I need to just have a downtime and just relax or laugh with friends. And like you said, just getting out of the stress of home, going on a vacation and you lose weight when you're like, I've been trying to lose weight and I can't. So I'm seeing that over and over. But what I see too is the stress of weighing yourself 6 times a day and worrying everything and like relax, trust the process a little bit because it's going to take time. It took you a while to gain your 50 pounds. We're going to take a little time to take it off, but be patient with this process. And if you know you're on the right path, a lot of people just knowing they're on the right path say it's a relief. But because the scariest place is to be out of control, like when you have your seizure and not be able to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Like you don't know when it's coming and stuff like that scares the heck out of us. If you say, hey, every time I look at this light, I get a seizure, then you know it's coming and nothing else. I'll just avoid the light. But when it just comes out of the blue, it's like panic attacks. You don't know how to avoid it.
Right. And it is. And so, you know, and you mentioned spending time with friends. I mean, that's this morning, you know, my buddies and I got together for coffee at 7. You know, we do every Friday. I'm on a rowing team here in DC, and that's my sort of hobby, you know. And so we're not rowing yet. The season hasn't started, but we still get together for coffee and then shoot the breeze and joke and crack, you know, crack jokes at each other. And people look at us like we're crazy, you know, but that's part of it, you know. And I think community, I think friendship, I think, you know, all these things are just part of like building a
accountability,
a good life.
Yeah. You know, having accountability, someone that you can be accountable to say, hey, you're being a jerk, Brian. There you go. Why do you think that? Look how you're treating that. Oh, okay, thanks. You know, sometimes you need someone outside to look and go, yeah, I'm overreacting or whatever it is. And like you said, it's the funny thing with guys is that, you know, like Tro and I, when we started the podcast, it was funny at the very beginning, people didn't know how to read us. But, you know, there's a thing when you bond with someone, you kind of can make fun of them and tease them. Like he'll tease me about being old or whatever, you know, gray hairs and whatever. And at least I have hair, Tro. But, you know, it's one of those things where people go, gosh, you guys are so mean to each other. I was like, no, that's how we bond. Exactly. Guys are like that. You know, we tease each other. Go, remember when you passed out and almost wrecked your car? That was a crazy thing. Like, you go, yeah, that was crazy. Right. So things like that where people don't get it, where it's like there's no harm, no foul type thing where you kind of know each other and know where you could rib, and obviously not doing a way where it's, you know, derogatory or detrimental, but you know, it makes life fun. But those are what's important. I think ultimately, you know, in my line of work, you know, I deal with people dying and I'll say, what matters? You know, that's why part of why I did this podcast, what really matters when you're dying, and you go, okay, relationship.
Yeah.
And a lot of us forget relationship when we forget about exercise and activity and rowing and things like that. It's like, I don't have time to row. I got too much work to do, you know, but when you get out there and row, just like working out, after you're done, you go, I feel really good that I got to work out, you know?
Yeah. Exactly.
So what are some of your secrets to life that I can share with my listeners that we can share right now?
Oh man. Well,
after going through what you've been through, what really matters, right?
Yeah, I think, you know, just some of the things we've already touched on. I mean, community, huge, so important, you know, connecting with others. I think we've lost so much of that in not only in the last 2 years, right, but with technology and Facebook and you know, all the sort of artificial friendships and connections that we have. I mean, I think, you know, the biggest thing you can do for yourself is just connect with a group of people. You know, it doesn't have to be, you know, the low carb community. It can be, you know, your church community. It can be, you know, a running group, whatever it is, right? a knitting group, doesn't matter, right? I think that just there's an old phrase, friends are the family you choose for yourself, and I think there's so much wisdom in that. Just really that sort of, again, the connection, the soul to soul connection that you can make with other people. I think that's something that if you're going to make time for anything, I'd say make time for that.
Yeah, I think that's a cool thing, and I also love it when you can blend people, right? So you have a rowing group, you have your church group, you go, hey, you know what, this guy would fit in pretty good with these guys. Let's try to get these guys together, and then you see how people learn from each other, and then you see friendships take off, and you see people that never would have met each other, but you can be that connection force for them, and go, man, these guys have really interesting views on life. Maybe these two guys will like debate something or whatever, but
Right.
it's just fun to see that how we can all kind of find your common ground. I think is really important. A lot of us separate each other rather than uniting and say, hey, okay, we don't agree on diet, but guess what, we have the same faith, or we don't agree on faith, but we enjoy the same football team, or whatever it is. You find that common ground. It's like, okay, don't argue about dumb stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's one thing I've seen. We've lost that ability to go, oh, you think keto's dumb? Okay, I think it's right. Well, okay, what's your evidence, and I'll give you mine, and we'll talk about it. Okay, maybe you'll convince me, maybe you won't. But I think a lot of us have our minds made up already that we're just going to argue our point rather than listening and going, oh, I see what you're saying. Your experience might be different than mine. Oh my goodness. Isn't that amazing?
Right. Or we're so afraid of conflict that we just avoid talking about it completely. Right.
Yeah, and it's hard, and I think that comes to a lot of what I've seen. I've seen people, like, for instance, that someone dies and someone doesn't know what to say, and they go, look, he never came around when you were in the hospital. Well, he didn't know what to say, and he was embarrassed and didn't want to say the wrong thing, and he loves you, but he didn't know what to do and didn't know how to handle the situation. So, we all have different skill sets, and some people are just uncomfortable in groups or uncomfortable in, being in the hospital, whatever. Yeah. I don't think any of us love being in the hospital. I'm glad not to be in the hospital. Yeah. But, it's things like that where you kind of start seeing what matters and what's good in life and focusing on good stuff.
Absolutely. I had a relative who passed away last year of cancer, and my cousin. And, I was in that very situation, like, geez, I should really call him. I should see how he's doing, but what will I say? What am I going to do? I finally just, what? Okay, let me give him a call. Within 2 minutes, we're laughing and joking just like we were when we were kids, and just start with, how you holding up, man? And it just went from there, so
yeah,
I think we overthink it. We think we have to know the answers, and we don't. It's just, make the connection and see what.
Yeah, or even if you're honest and go, hey, I don't know what to say, man. I know you're going through it. Like, how can I be a support? Like, whatever. Or sometimes not even talking about the problem and going, hey, remember that time you did when you wrecked your car and drove across 4 lanes of traffic, right? And that just opens up. And I think a lot of and I think another lesson in that for a lot of us is being able to be humble enough that if we've had a bad, an argument with someone or a fight, be able to say, you know what, I was a jerk. I didn't understand what you're saying. Okay, I apologize. It's so hard for us to do that, and that there's so much healing that comes out of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just having grace for each other and going, yeah, you were kind of a knucklehead, weren't you? So was I. Okay, you move on. Because I think these are valuable things. I think a lot of families are broken apart. I've had issues in my family too, and you start saying, okay, we're all knucklehead, we're all dysfunctional. Let's try to be as get along and be dysfunctional and do our thing. We all have our quirks and all that. And I think that's part of it too. And, going through what you've been through in life and being able to put it all down in words. So what do you think is the take home message from your book?
Just, I call my book a journey of learning. And, as a teacher, as a reader, that's the most important thing. I mean, we're all, I say somewhere in there, you're the CEO of the trillion cells that is your own body, and so you have power over this. So, I really hope people get out of it a sense of empowerment and a sense of really being able to participate in their own health.
Yeah. And who's your audience?
I kind of thought about, I kind of think about it in some ways as this is the book that I wish I had when I started out with low carb, and to see what it's all about, because I think a lot of the takeaways are how to stick to it in certain ways as well, right? Not just, I do a little bit of the science, as from an English major's perspective. So, not comprehensive by any means, go by to Gary Taubes if you want to know how it works. But, if you want to know in real life what it looks like, and how to stick to it, and how to kind of bob and weave your way around a restaurant menu and things like that, that's kind of what I go into. So
yeah, I think that's the important thing. That's what we need. We need a lot of us are figuring out every detail of the car. You got the owner's manual. You're looking at, okay, this screw holds this together and all this stuff, instead of saying, okay, how do you drive the car? How do you drive the car? Right. I'm driving the car. Let's go out and do it and have fun and enjoy the process and not be dangerous. And, but part of it's that is, having someone like you who said, look, I've navigated this road. Here's my story. And that helps the next person who just got diagnosed or will get diagnosed in the next week with seizure disorder. So to have something like this available, and also for people just starting out low carb and keto. And for me, one of the great joys of what I do now is like, really I had this vision of saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool if all my patients could sit down like this on Zoom and talk to each other and say, hey, I'm craving cookies. What should I do? Oh, what I used to do. Here's what I did. And they all answer their own questions and they don't need me anymore. I just sit there and zone out. But I learn, go, wow, that's a good idea. I can help that to help the next person when they ask me what to do when you want cookies at night. I go for a walk around the neighborhood, or I go write a book, or I read something. Or I read my Unremarkable Brain or something along those lines, But I think that's really important in your quest for knowledge and also wanting to help other people. I think that says a lot about you too, and that's why I wanted to have you on the podcast to kind of share your story. Because the worst case scenario for me, I would realize, and what I learned a lot doing the podcast was I've run into people. They go, Doc, I used to be 350 pounds, 400 pounds, and then I heard this one person's story that was uncomfortable about coming on because they thought it wasn't going to help anyone. I go, that one spoke to me. Not what you and Tro yambling on about stuff, but that spoke to me. Or hey, the guy that they might not even know your name, the guy that had seizure disorder who wrote the book, that guy, oh my gosh. Oh, David, yeah, changed my life that day. Right. And so it was like, wow, to be a conduit of that is really awesome. It's really fun.
It's so powerful. I'm very grateful for Amazon reviews and everything like that. But the number one moment was I got an Instagram message just out of nowhere. Someone I don't know said, thank you for writing this book. I understand better what's happening to me and I don't feel so bad about it, and it was just, I was floored,
Yeah, that's life's medicine, man, right there when they go, wow, now I'm not the only one. Because the worst thing is to be on the island. And that's why, coming back to what you're saying, I think that's a powerful thing, is fellowship and friendship. And I know I've been through years where I didn't have great friendships because I didn't have time to devote to a friendship. I'm like, meeting on are you kidding me? Meeting on Wednesday morning? There's no way in heck I can do that. I mean, I don't have time for that. So it's really making the time. And I think a lot of us we've been so, I really had to come to the conclusion, a few conclusions, but, one of the things that struck me as a friend of mine who's a pastor said, Brian, one day we're sitting there talking, might have been having a glass of wine, can't remember. And he said, hey, it's all about the potato salad. I go, what? It was about the potato salad. And I go, really? What do you mean? Okay. So I'm a pastor. When someone dies, they go and they do the service, and I'll do the service. Then they go to Aunt Betty's house, or someone's going to host a thing. And for some reason, they always have potato salad at these things. And people will be sitting around eating their potato salad and talk about your life, right? And what you did, and the day you helped them, and when you were kind to them, or when or they'll say what a waste your life was, that you could have done so much, but you never dedicated yourself to anything, or you never reached out. And then you realize that little dash in between when you're born and when you die, that there's a lot in that little tiny dash. That's what it's about, not when you're born and when you die, but the impact that we can have on other people. So you start realizing, okay, I want to have as much impact as I can. So you having the courage to share your story helps that one person who says, yeah, I was really hurting, but guess what? This book helped me, and now you're going through it. Guess what? I'm going to buy you a copy of this book so you can go read it and share it with your family and friends and stuff. So, it's all our life experience is what it really comes through. When we go through hard times, and like we all have been through stressful, hard times, you realize there's a testimony, a story that comes out of that you can share with other people to give them hope when they're going through what you went through. Like,
absolutely.
A lot of people say, why did I lose my wife at a young age? Why did I go through this stuff? And you realize now you can go help someone else who's going through that same thing. And so there is some good that comes out of it, even though we wouldn't wish it that way. Sometimes it is, looking at the journey.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree more. Yeah.
And I'm glad I can live through you and not have to drive across 4 lanes of traffic and dodge all the cars and go through that. But you think about that, because it had to be nerve-wracking thinking, what could have happened?
Oh yeah.
Something happened, like, oh my gosh, that could have been bad,
Yeah. Yeah. I still think about that sometimes.
Yeah, it's funny. I
Believe
was
me.
thinking, I don't know why, but it reminded me I was in Death Valley one time with my uncle, and we're sitting on the top of this bluff looking down, like sitting over this huge cliff, and it was like so relaxed. I'm thinking, man, this is so great. And I heard this sound. I'm like, does it sound like it's raining or water's running or something? He goes, yeah, I hear it too. Well, the underside of the cliff, all the sand was sliding out, and this whole thing, we just dove up and like crawled up,
No
and that
way.
whole side of the cliff went off. We're like, oh my gosh,
Oh.
that was like not water running. That was the hillside giving away where we're sitting, just relaxing, enjoying the day. Could you imagine, like, whatever happened to those two guys? I haven't seen them in a while.
Wow.
Oh, they're down there in the end. They're down there in the valley somewhere, like
Yeah, somewhere beneath
relaxing.
all that sand. Oh.
Yeah. But in life you go through those things. So, you've lived a life and it's great. You put it down on paper. And, I think hopefully maybe this inspires someone to write a blog or write a book or write something. And, I haven't been possessed to do that yet, but I've been kind of feeling that nudging a little bit to write down some life experience. And
You
part of it
should.
is this podcast. Maybe we turn this into a book sometime and say, okay, put all these crazy stories together and we'll make a story that helps people.
Yeah. Hey, if you ever need a co-author, I'm in, man.
All right, man. You know how to do it. I'll be the co-author. You be the main guy, and we'll do it. So, hey, any parting words of wisdom for my listeners? Like you say, hey guys, here's what really matters. I know you've given us a lot of nuggets, a lot of important stuff, but anything in life where you go, here's what matters, guys.
Yeah, I'd say again, just what matters is never stop learning, never stop loving, never stop connecting with other people.
Awesome stuff. David, how do people find your writings and your blog and all this stuff in your book?
I guess the easiest way is unremarkablebrain.com. It's a mouthful, but yeah, unremarkablebrain.com. That's my blog. And you can connect to the book there. I'm on all the Instagram and all that. D Robinson Writes is my handle on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those good things. So yeah.
Awesome. And the book, he added a "my" to the beginning, My Unremarkable Brain. If you want to go on Amazon and get it there. So good stuff, good reading. I'm mentioned there, so I'll highlight that part and show it to people so I can say, hey, I made it into a book, guys.
Yeah. I know you read at least one chapter. So
yeah, just read my chapter.
Yeah.
No, this is good stuff, man. I love it. I think it's so good, and it's so good to share our journeys together. So, hey, everyone, you were gifted with learning and seeing what really matters. Hopefully it speaks to you a bit, David's story and what we're trying to accomplish here. And hopefully you kind of pass that along, share this with people who need it. And remember to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, give yourself a break, give others the same. And, have a good week and enjoy life. And thank you for spending your valuable time with us here at, well, I was going to say Low Carb MD, but that's my other podcast you can listen to, but Life's Best Medicine. So thank you all. Thank you, David. Have a great weekend. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We greatly appreciate your support. We would greatly appreciate a positive thumbs up on all of the platforms like iTunes and Spotify or wherever you're listening. And we just thank you for our Patreon supporters. We greatly appreciate your help in getting this message out. We think there's a lot of important information. And hopefully this helps you. Have a great day, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.